Hi, I'm Emma. I raised my son with everything I had: bare hands, empty fridge, late shifts. Then one night, after his promotion dinner, he texted me, "You're useless, Mom. Don't come back." And just like that, I was erased. But it wasn't the first time they'd made me feel invisible. My name vanished from the business. My husband's will, gone. My silence was their weapon. But when my son came crying at my door 12 hours later, what did he expect me to say? It was just another Alabama evening, the kind that stuck to your skin like honey. The hum of cicadas was louder than the jazz drifting from my old radio. Coltrane, soft and knowing, like he'd been through something too. I was out back, watering the tomatoes, same as I did every night. Hose in one hand, cold beer in the other, sweat trickling down my temple. That garden, that little patch of earth had become my peace. My corner of quiet. The air smelled like cut grass and something sweet. Honeysuckle, maybe. My neighbor's porch light flickered on, and I could hear someone's TV playing reruns down the street. Inside, on the windowsill, sat a photo in a dusty frame. My son, Bishop, on his high school graduation day. Cap crooked, smile wide. My arm around him. Back when things felt simpler. Or maybe I just believed harder back then. "He's doing well," I mumbled, mostly to myself. I suppose that means I did something right. Then my phone buzzed. Just once. I wiped my wet hands on my jeans, still smiling as I reached for it. Thought maybe it was one of the guys from the church, or even Bishop, checking in. But no, it was a message from Bishop. Just one line. "You're useless, Dad. Don't come back. I mean it." My thumb hovered. My chest went tight. That smile of mine, gone. Like it had never existed. The kind of ache that hits all at once and somehow still digs in slow. I read it again, then again. Couldn't make it make sense. I paid for that phone, I thought. Taught him to spell his damn name. The words weren't just sharp. They were heavy. Felt like they'd been soaking in bitterness for years before being typed out. And I just stood there, not yelling, not pacing, just still. Then I typed back. "Okay." No punctuation, no question, no plea. I set the phone down on the table like it might bite me again. It wasn't surrender. It was control. That silence wasn't me giving up. It was me choosing something older than anger. My daddy used to say, "Son, sometimes silence is the loudest lesson." I stared at Bishop's name in my favorites list. Then I deleted it. That little action stung more than I thought it would, but I kept going. Opened up the home account on my phone. Bishop still had access. He never asked, but I gave it to him anyway, years back, just in case. Click, gone. Still calm, still quiet. Outside, the sky had dimmed. Porch light threw long shadows. I sat down in the old creaky chair I'd had since before Bishop was born and listened. Crickets, distant dogs, a car rolling by slow. And me, stuck in questions I wasn't sure had answers. Was I too hard on him when he was little? Or too soft when he got older? I could see him, maybe 8 or 9, helping me cut lumber for a birdhouse. Sawdust in his curls. That laugh, that big belly laugh he used to have. Now all that was gone. Echoes. That's all I had left. "It's not the words that hurt," I whispered. "It's the years behind them." I sat there for a while. Didn't cry. Didn't curse. Just sat. Eventually, the humidity pushed me back inside. I opened the closet, pulled out my old briefcase, the one I hadn't touched since retirement, found the folder I was looking for, bank documents, passwords, logged in, removed Bishop's name from every account that still had him listed. No rage, just a steady hand. Then I opened the security system app, changed the codes, every lock, every camera. If he doesn't want to come home, I thought, then this house will finally be mine. Laptop closed. Thunder rolled somewhere off in the distance. Not a full storm yet, but the kind that threatens, the kind that waits. I walked back to the table, checked my phone one last time. One new notification. A photo. Bishop, dressed sharp, arm around a tall man in a suit. His boss, maybe. Smiling. Champagne flutes raised in a toast. His promotion dinner. I hadn't been invited. I hadn't even known. "Congratulations, son," I said. But the words dropped out flat, like they were never meant to rise. Lightning flickered outside the window. Thunder followed. I looked at the door, like something, or someone, might walk through. But they didn't. He just didn't know, I muttered, voice low. Storms don't end because you send a message. Sunlight came in through the blinds like it didn't know what happened last night. Soft and slow, like everything was fine. But the quiet in the house, it wasn't peace. It was that kind of silence that knows something's been taken. I sat up, feet flat on the floor, and listened. Just like I always did. Used to be I'd hear Bishop's old room door creak open, him rustling through the fridge for leftover pancakes, or tapping his toothbrush against the sink too loud. Now, nothing. Silence used to mean peace, I muttered. Now it just means no one's left to call. I made coffee the way I always had. Black, strong enough to wake the truth. 2 scrambled eggs, no toast. Muscle memory had me setting out 2 plates. I stared at them a second, then quietly put one back in the cabinet. Sat down, chewed slow, let the memory of that text float up again. Just words, I whispered. But they didn't feel like just words. They echoed, loud and sharp. After I cleaned up, I stood by the window. The garden was still there, green, still breathing. Same dirt Bishop once ran across barefoot, calling me Big J like I was some kind of superhero. Dad, he'd said once, no more than 7, when I grow up, I want to buy you a big house. His voice was so sure, so full of love, he hadn't yet learned to question. But love, I guess, gets edited as time goes. I remembered missing his baseball game that same year, stuck at work, promised I'd be there. He'd hit a double that day. His coach told me after, but I wasn't there to see it. I thought I was teaching him responsibility, I thought. Maybe I just taught him I wouldn't show up. The yard hadn't changed much, but it looked smaller. Or maybe I did. Later, I needed groceries. Thought a walk might clear my head. At the store, I stood near the checkout, waiting behind 2 young brothers talking real loud. Yeah, that's the guy who said his dad didn't do a damn thing for him, one said, laughing. I didn't flinch, didn't scowl, just folded my receipt a little tighter in my hand. When the second guy looked my way, I nodded. Just a nod, polite, controlled. They can say what they want, I told myself. My story's not for sale. That's what being an older black man is sometimes. Standing tall while folks rewrite you in their version of events. I didn't need to defend myself to boys who hadn't even grown into their pain yet. After the store, I drove over to the church. Sister May was out front stacking canned goods for the Sunday food drive. She smiled when she saw me. You comin' Sunday, Brother Jerome? I paused. Maybe. Gotta see if I still got a place to sit. She laughed soft, didn't press. Inside, I dropped off a few things. Cereal, peanut butter, some paper towels. Stuff they needed. Stuff I always brought. On the way out, I saw a young family in the lot. Father buckling his daughter into her car seat, both of them giggling. I smiled, just barely. My eyes watered before I could stop them. That's what I thought I was building once, I said. Back home, I started clearing off the mantel. Dusty frames, smiling faces. I kept one, Bishop at 10, missing 2 front teeth, grinning like the world was all joy. This one stays, I said. The rest can stay in the past. I put the rest in a box, taped it shut. Then I sat down, organized bills, called the bank, just to make sure the access changes stuck. Calm, steady. If respect won't be given, I told myself, I'll build peace from discipline. Before the sun dipped low, I opened my notebook. Wrote, Day 1. Learn to live without apology. Felt solid, the kind of solid that comes after too many years of bending. That night, I was about to turn in when there was a knock on the door. Unexpected. I didn't rush, didn't even open it, just stood at the peephole and watched. And a figure walked away down the path, didn't turn back, dropped something on the steps. I opened the door once the street was quiet again. An envelope, inside, a card, printed, fancy. Congratulations on your promotion, from Bishop's office. No signature, no note. I sat down on the steps. The sky was purple now, turning dark at the edges. They can send paper, I said, but not respect. And for the first time, I realized my silence was starting to sound like strength. The morning pulled me awake before the sun fully cleared the sky. I sat in my living room, the echo of the last 2 nights heavy in the air, and watched the shadows move across the walls. My laptop lay open, screen dim, until a ping broke the stillness. A message from Zeke. I found something. We need to talk. I hesitated, hand hovering over the mouse. Some part of me wanted to lie down and let the day slip away. But I knew better. Zeke had always been the one man I trusted with broken beams and hard promises. In my mind, I whispered, "He's the only one who ever saw me beyond the coat I wear." I forced myself up. As I passed the counter, my eyes landed on a sealed envelope bearing the logo of Bishop's firm. I swallowed. That envelope had waited there, unopened, but it wasn't waiting anymore. Tension gathered in my chest. I pocketed my keys. I stepped out. By noon, I found Zeke in a corner booth at the cafe downtown. He didn't bother with a greeting. He slid his phone across the table and pressed play. Bishop's face appeared. Behind him, clean slides, confident tone, a room full of investors. He described a housing plan, one called Foundation Homes. The lines on the screen matched drawings I'd made years ago. The same angles, the same pillars, the same measure of open windows and warm porches. My jaw clenched, my fists pressed to the edge of the table. Zeke watched, quiet. When the video ended, I didn't speak. "He took your idea, Dad. He made it his own," Zeke said softly. My mind raced. Disbelief, hurt, pride twisted into something sharper. I knew those lines. I knew those arcs. I asked him to forward every file, sketches, uploads, timestamps. Back home, I didn't pause. Straight to the old desktop in my office. The account Bishop and I used to share, the one where our drafts lived, awaited me. Password. Enter. Access denied. Unauthorized login. I tried again. Same result. The message beat at me with finality. I dialed one of Bishop's assistants, someone I'd known before all of this. When she answered, voice small, she told me Bishop had cut off permissions last month, said it was a security move. I listened, calm, then thanked her. Hung up. The room felt colder. "He's erasing me," I muttered. "Erasing me from the blueprint of my own life." No breakdown, just resolve. I opened drawers, pulled out dusty files I'd tucked away. Every sketch, every note, every blueprint I ever signed. I laid them out side by side with the video frames. Precision match, proof. I scrawled emails to Zeke and Quinn, my lawyer, attached metadata, draft versions, version history. I didn't want vengeance. I wanted acknowledgement. I needed the record. Memories drifted in. Saturdays at the table, Bishop tracing my lines, asking me how to join wood so rain wouldn't seep. I taught him how the frame matters, how the foundation holds more than weight. It holds stories. "Son," I whispered, "when did you stop needing me in your plan?" That evening, I opened a new alias account, sent a message to Bishop's firm. "The original plans are viable. Let's talk next steps." Just enough to draw a response. Later, a reply came from an account I didn't expect. Bishop's alias. No greeting, just, "Thanks for the help. I knew you'd come through." I stared at those words, my phrasing, my tone. Someone was using my voice. I stood, the room heavy around me. "You may have taken my designs," I said quietly to the silence, "but you can't take what built me." I switched off the desk lamp, letting darkness settle in. We still play by my rules now. I woke up with the morning light cutting through the blinds, the same envelope still sitting on the table where I left it last night. I hadn't opened it. Couldn't bring myself to. My name sat beside the logo of Bishop's firm, like a shadow clinging to something it once owned. I turned it over in my hands, thumb brushing against the seal. I could almost hear his voice in the way it crinkled. He congratulates me with paper while tearing me apart with his words. I poured coffee, black, the way I always had. The smell filled the house, warm but empty. The silence between each sip stretched too long. Eventually, I slipped on my jacket, took the box of donated books by the door, and walked toward the community center. The streets buzzed with quiet weekday energy, cars rolling by, people waving like they still remembered who I was. When I stepped into the center, a few folks greeted me like they always did. "Morning, Mr. Carver," said one woman near the desk. "You're looking well." "Trying to keep busy," I replied. They smiled, polite, rehearsed. I could tell from the way they looked at me that they'd seen something. News clips, interviews, photos of Bishop standing where I used to. I set the books down and nodded to the director before leaving. The luncheon was next. I hadn't planned to attend, but when people started mentioning my name, I thought it might be a chance to reclaim a little ground. The hall smelled like cornbread and roast chicken, the kind of comfort that used to mean home. I found a seat near the back. The host stepped up to the podium, full of that practiced energy. "Before we begin," she said, "we'd like to honor one of our community's brightest, our very own Mr. Carver." Applause filled the room. My name again, but not my face. The screen behind her flickered to life, and there he was. Bishop. Standing tall, shaking hands with councilmen, smiling like the world was his for the taking. My son. My work. The applause grew louder, people clapping without seeing what was wrong. I could feel my throat tightening. For a second, I thought about walking out, but I didn't. I stood, slow and deliberate. "That's my son," I said, voice calm. "But I did the groundwork." The host froze. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some looked down at their plates, others just stared. I didn't wait for her to recover. I sat back down, folded my hands on the table, and let the silence grow. When it was over, I walked out through the side door and into the parking lot. The sky looked heavy, low with clouds, like it knew what I was feeling. Driving home, I passed the old workshop Bishop used to rent when he started. The door was open. My foot hit the brake before my mind caught up. I parked, got out, and stepped inside. He was there, with Talia. They stood side by side over a table of blueprints, talking quietly. When Bishop looked up, surprise flashed across his face, then irritation. "Dad," he said flatly, "didn't expect you here." "I just came to see what's become of the place," I said. My eyes fell on the papers spread before them. Familiar lines, my designs, my handwriting turned digital. "I know who built this vision before the name was yours." Bishop straightened, crossing his arms. "Ideas evolve. You taught me that." "Some things evolve," I said softly. "Others get stolen." Talia smiled, sharp as glass. "You should be proud, Mr. Carver. He's taking what you started and making it bigger." I reached into my jacket, pulled out a folder, and laid it on the table. Original sketches, signed, dated, and still mine. Bishop didn't move. His jaw tightened. "You don't have to make this ugly," he muttered. "You already did," I said. And I turned, walking out before he could answer. The drive home was quiet. Every mile felt like replaying a memory I couldn't stop watching. When I got back, I spread the old documents across the kitchen table. The same blueprints from decades ago, edges frayed, smudged from use. I could see him again, 16, hunched over the table, trying to copy the lines I drew. "Measure twice, cut once," I'd said back then. He'd grinned, pencil tucked behind his ear. I remember thinking I was teaching him to build. Now I know I was teaching him how to take. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the mess of papers, sketches, and memories. "I can't undo the past," I said under my breath, "but I won't be erased in it." I sorted everything by date, scanned each one, attached them to an email for Quinn. Proof of authorship. Review immediately. I hit send and closed the laptop. The house felt too still, the kind of quiet that presses against your chest. Then my phone buzzed. One new message. No name, no subject. It read, "You're not the only one he's betrayed." I stared at the words for a long while, feeling the air shift around me. Whoever sent it knew something bigger than I'd imagined. "They wanted silence," I whispered, the sound almost lost in the hum of the refrigerator. "But the walls are starting to speak." The day moved slow, like it knew something was coming. I sat in my office, half listening to the distant hum of a lawnmower and the occasional shout of a child chasing a ball down the street. My fingers flipped through folders, yellowed pages holding decades of sketches, plans, notes in my handwriting. The work I once did when my name still meant something. One folder was heavier than the rest, not in weight, but in memory. I set it aside, eyes drifting to the red napkin folded on the desk. It used to be just a napkin. Now it was a reminder. Love sewn into linen by hands I trusted. Bishop's initials embroidered in the corner, once a gesture of pride, now a mark of possession. That cloth once meant love. Now it reminds me of erasure. The knock came soft. 3 light taps. I knew that pattern. Grandpa? I opened the door and let Malik in. He dropped his backpack and gave me a tired smile. I nodded toward the kitchen. Want a snack? I already had one at school, he said, walking to the couch. He sat and pulled his knees up, arms around them. How was your day? He shrugged, then paused. Daddy said, he saw the real drawing you made, the one Dad didn't show. I froze. My voice stayed calm. What drawing, baby? Malik looked unsure, but kept going. In Daddy's office, there was a sketchbook. I saw your name. I asked about it. He said names don't matter, just the work. I sat beside him, trying not to let the shaking in my chest reach my voice. And what did you think? I said it was yours. He didn't say anything, just closed the book. I rubbed his back gently. You did right. Bishop had always been careful. Slippery with words, slippery with truth. But if Malik saw it, that meant others could too. My name, hidden under years of polish and PR, still had weight. After Malik left for his room, I went to check the mail. A small envelope stood out, thick cardstock, Bishop's firm logo printed in silver. I opened it slow. You are cordially invited. But the name didn't read Jerome Carver. It said Talia Monroe. Not a mistake, not even close. I held that card like it burned. Years ago, Bishop used to put my name on every wall, in every speech. Dad taught me everything, he'd say. Now, I wasn't even worth the print. When your name disappears from your own story, I said, they think you'll fade. I tore the card clean down the middle, one half into the trash, the other I tucked into my notebook. Evidence. Not rage, just proof. Late afternoon bled into evening. I drove to Malik's school, parked outside just before dismissal. The sky was turning the color of wet asphalt, thick clouds pressing low. Kids ran out in packs, shouting, tossing backpacks, racing to waiting cars. Malik spotted me and ran over. Before he reached me, Mrs. Henderson, his teacher, stepped outside. She gave me a small nod. Mr. Carver, she said, your grandson is a brave boy. I smiled, unsure. He do something today? She looked around, voice low. We had a discussion in class. Someone brought up Bishop, his buildings, the award ceremony. Malik raised his hand and said, my grandpa drew those first. My heart clenched. I told him speaking the truth isn't wrong, she continued. He just wanted you to be seen. I found my voice. Thank you. That means more than you know. Malik grabbed my hand as we walked to the truck. You see me, I told him, when others pretend not to. He smiled. That's 'cause you never lie to me. Back home, the rain had started, a soft drizzle tapping at the windows. I changed into dry clothes, poured a cup of coffee, and sat down with the half invitation. I took a picture, attached it to an email, and sent it to Quinn. Subject, formal complaint. Body, misattributed invitation. Legal action, pending correction. I moved to the computer, opened my design archives, one folder, Jerome authored sketches. I dragged to the top, bolded, labeled as primary source. Then, in my notebook. They correct the invitation. I correct the legacy. Darkness settled around the house. Lights dimmed. The rain thickened. I started to shut things down, the quiet settling in like old furniture. That's when I heard the knock. 3 hard raps. I stood still for a second, then walked to the door. Through the peephole, I saw him, Bishop. He was soaked through, suit clinging to his frame, hair flattened by rain. He didn't look angry. He looked hollow. "Can we talk?" he said, voice barely above the storm behind him. I stared through the peephole, heart steady, calm, clear. Then I whispered, more to myself than him. He knocked, but he lost the right. There's an ache in silence that doesn't come from noise missing, but from what used to fill it. I sat in the living room, light from the window stretched across the floor, catching dust like it was suspended time. The chair across from me at the dining table stayed empty, and I stared at it like it might explain itself. Same chair Bishop used to pull out, scratch the floor, ask what we were eating, even when he already knew. The broken invitation lay in front of me. I'd read it more than I should have. It wasn't what it said. It was what it didn't say. My name, my voice, my place. I ran my thumb along the corner, glancing at my notes, things I thought might bring us back together. But now they just looked like pages of a man trying too hard to rewrite a past someone else already edited. I picked up the phone, dialed Quinn, let it ring once, then ended it. Calling him felt like tugging a rope you already know is frayed. The red napkin sat near the edge of the table, almost sliding off. Bishop's name, stitched by hand. I reached out and touched it, fingers trembling like I was brushing against a ghost. The fabric still held weight, memory. My boy had once been proud to carry my name. Now it was a question he ran from. The mail slid through the slot. One envelope, no return address. Just my name in a handwriting that hit like a cold slap. Lenora. I sat up straighter, unfolded the paper inside. Typed. Clean. But the words hit jagged. Jerome, if this reaches you, it means I'm finally done hiding. My gut sank. She laid it out, plain. How she'd helped switch my blueprints into Bishop's application. It was to help him, Jerome. I thought maybe he needed to be free of your shadow. I never meant to erase you. But she had. And Bishop? He'd let it stand. I tried to protect him from our past, she wrote, but I only buried the truth. I read it 3 times. Each pass stripped away another piece of the man I thought I'd been. Betrayal didn't come in screams, it came in silence, in secrets wrapped in good intentions that never got checked. I pressed the paper flat on the table and leaned on my elbows, breathing deep. My whole life I'd swallowed silence to keep this family from falling apart. And maybe that was my mistake. Later that afternoon, I grabbed my keys and left. Drove nowhere in particular, just moving. By the time I pulled over near the old corner diner, the sky had gone gray. I sat in the car, engine running, when the radio caught my ear. "Rumors tonight about Bishop Carver," the host said, casual like they were talking about a ball game. Was his big break actually his dad's work? I froze. "Local chatter, maybe nothing," the host continued. But a tweet from someone close to the family says the original blueprint was filed under Jerome Carver's name. Simone. I gripped the wheel, unsure if I was about to shout or laugh. "Whose vision is this, really?" the host asked. My heart thumped. Part of me wanted to call in, say, "Mine." That was my vision. But I didn't. I listened. I let it breathe. Back home, night crawling in through the curtains, I walked past the photo on the wall. Bishop, 12 years old, holding my pen like it was a torch. That photo used to mean pride. Now, I couldn't tell if it was a trophy or a lie. I stood in front of the mirror. The lines on my face didn't lie. I'd earned every one of them. I whispered to my reflection. I held my tongue so many years. Did it build or bury me? My laptop screen glowed, letter draft blinking. I moved to hit delete. Just erase it all. But then, I saw the old quote stuck on the side of the monitor. I'd written it there years ago. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I sat down, opened the letter again. This time, I finished it. That same night, I called Zeke and Quinn. Set times, told them we'd talk face to face. I uploaded the letter anonymously, scheduled it for release. I started a new social media page. One post, white text on black. Names matter, truth matters. I will be heard. Then I closed the notebook, placed the napkin inside, and stood up. Not shaky, not tired, just ready. An hour later, just after 10, a knock came. 3 short raps. I opened the door. Judah stood there, hood up, hands clutching something. His voice barely carried. "Mr. Carver, Bishop told me to give you this. Said if you ever needed proof." He held out a flash drive. His fingers shook. I took it slow. "Proof of what?" He didn't answer. Just stepped back. "You'll know," he whispered, then turned and ran off down the block. I closed the door, locked it, stared at the tiny silver thing in my hand. The storm's not here yet, but the rain is gathering. I woke before sunrise. The sky was dark, but inside me the day had already begun. I sat at the desk, the flash drive lying beside the Lenora letter, sketches, and archived files. I breathed deep. Today I would use the evidence, not hide it. I dialed Quinn, set up a press release. I folded the red napkin, slipped it into my wallet. My hands were steady now. They'd built a kingdom on my silence. I was going to dismantle it. By mid-morning, I discovered something worse than I'd feared. A copy of my father's will had been altered. Assets that were supposed to return to me, land, patents, royalties, had Bishop's name inserted in place of mine. I held the original will, yellowed and signed by my father, next to the official version. The difference was unmistakable. I called Lenora. She didn't answer at first. When she finally picked up, I said, "You helped them erase me from my own legacy." Her voice cracked. She spoke of fear, of wanting Bishop to rise free of conflict. But excuses don't correct theft. I told Quinn to file an injunction immediately. We met at the courthouse. I walked in with original documents, sketches, and the flash drive. The courtroom was crowded. Bishop's legal team stood ready. Talia beside him, composed. I presented the original will and timestamps. I dismantled their claims of forgery point by point. Evidence, not emotion, guided me. The judge studied both versions, then spoke. Ownership and rights restored to me, effective immediately. The room murmured. Bishop's face drained. Outside, camera crews waited. Reporters asked, "How does it feel to win?" I said, "I didn't fight for a title. I fought for what's real." Neighbors stared, some nodded. I felt pride, but also sorrow. Victory never comes clean. I thought, they tried to humiliate me. Instead, I reclaimed truth. Back home, I went through old photos. I removed pictures of luxuries now mine again, but I didn't celebrate. I called Malik. "Tonight, dinner. Just you and me," I said. He didn't hesitate. The empty rooms felt different now, heavier with purpose. I wrote in my notebook, "This is not the end. It's a new beginning." Late evening, my phone buzzed. Anonymous. Subject: "You think this is over?" I opened a link. A draft exposé accusing me of misusing funds years ago. Lies packaged to cast me as the villain. I leaned back, expression hard. They brought a new weapon. Fine, let the truth finish this. The air outside was cool, but inside the media center, the lights burned hot. Quinn had already briefed the team. Zeke stood by the wall, arms crossed, nodding to me as I entered. A reporter tapped her mic. The news anchor, a woman I'd seen on TV for years, leaned over and whispered to her cameraman, "When we know better, we do better." Maya Angelou. That sat heavy on me. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It hadn't been for a while. It was about what they did in the dark and how much daylight could change. I stood behind the curtains, palms dry, shoulders squared. I wasn't shaking. I was ready. The segment started soft, easing folks in with clips of Bishop's promotion speech. Then came the cracks, footage comparing the sketches, overlays proving the designs weren't his. Then Lenora's letter appeared on screen, her typed confession. The room behind the cameras went quiet. A few editors stared at their monitors. Social media was already reacting. Phones buzzed, screens flashed. One segment cut to Bishop himself, recorded audio. I knew it was my dad's, but I thought if I just pushed it forward, it trailed off like a man realizing he'd said too much. Then came my name. The broadcast anchor looked straight into the camera. Jerome Carver, the man behind the vision. And just like that, folks in the control room clapped. I watched Bishop's face on the monitor, first confused, then flushed, then still. You could see the weight drop behind his eyes. He hadn't expected this to hit public. Not like this. It wasn't long after the broadcast that Bishop appeared live. He stood under harsh lights in a small studio, eyes red, hands folded. "Dad," he said, "I was wrong. I lost myself trying to be more than your shadow." He paused, trying to hold composure. "If you're watching, I need you to come on stage. I need people to see us. I need them to see you." I was off to the side, behind the crew. I didn't move. I listened. He was teetering between confession and performance. I thought of all the years he let folks believe I was just his inspiration. I remembered his face as a boy, asking me, "Why don't you tell them it was your design?" My silence back then cost more than my name. It cost who we became. And still, under the pain, I remembered loving that boy. I stepped out for air, called Quinn. We talked about the legal angles. Going public meant more than words now. It meant retribution, maybe lawsuits. "Are you sure?" she asked. "You don't have to carry it all out loud." But I already knew. I was going to speak. Not to match Bishop's tears, not to claim a throne, but to clarify what had been buried too long. Back at the house, I rewrote my statement one more time. Short, sharp, truthful. I reached for the red napkin again. The thread was unraveling at the corner, but the name embroidered there held. I ran my finger across it like Braille. Malik knocked on the door not long after. I hugged him, no words at first. Then I said, "Thank you for seeing me." He nodded. We walked toward the car. We arrived just before the evening broadcast. The parking lot lights flickered overhead. Inside, I stayed unseen, waited near the side entrance. Bishop was already seated under the lights. The host read from the teleprompter, voice steady. "And now, Mr. Jerome Carver." The camera panned. I stepped in. My face filled the screen. I didn't blink. Let's get the record straight. No more voices lost. When I stepped under those lights, something shifted. Not in the room. In me. Bishop sat to the side, small now, smaller than I'd ever seen him. Red-eyed, hands folded tight like a boy waiting for the principal to speak. The host gave me space. "Mr. Carver, what would you like to say?" I took a breath. Not to center myself, but to slow the weight. "Truth isn't revenge," I said. "It's release." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call names. I told them what I wished someone told me when I was young and angry. When your children forget where they came from, remind them, not to shame them, but to free them. Bishop's lip quivered. He leaned toward the mic, barely audible. "I'm sorry, Dad." I nodded. Not to say I forgave him, not yet, but to say I heard him, that was enough for now. That night, it spread like wildfire. Someone clipped the moment and posted it online. Just my voice saying, "It's not revenge. It's release." I started getting messages from folks I hadn't heard from in years. Deacons, barbers, my old drafting teacher from the community center. A pastor from the South Side called and said, "You spoke what half this city been choking on." Then came the surprise. A proposal. A mentorship program for young Black engineers, backed by the same firm that once erased my name. Bishop held a press conference of his own. No theatrics. He stood flat-footed, finally, and said the truth aloud. "Every design you saw with my name started in my father's hands." He paused before adding, "His name has been added to all the patents." That hit harder than any headline. An email came from a woman named Celeste. She ran the foundation. "We want you to speak, not to inspire, but to teach." Her words stuck. Teach, not perform, not explain myself again, just teach. Later that night, I sat on the porch. No news crews, no calls buzzing. Just me, the city hum, and a warm mug of coffee cooling beside me. The red napkin sat folded on the table. I didn't touch it. Didn't have to. It was just there, like it always had been. Malik came out quietly, dropped into the other chair. We watched the skyline turn gold. He said, "You could have crushed him, Dad." I didn't blink. If I did, I'd be no better than the folks who tried to bury me. We sat with that. "I just wanted to be seen," I whispered. "Not remembered. Just seen." That morning, the sun cracked open the sky like a second chance. Mail came early. A small box wrapped in brown paper. I opened it slow. Inside, a framed red napkin. Same stitch, same weight. But clean, new. Underneath, a note. For the table we broke, and the one we'll rebuild. Bishop. I didn't cry, but I smiled deep. That kind of smile you feel in your chest more than your face. I set it on the mantel next to our old family photo, the only one where we weren't posing. A soft gospel tune played in the background. Sam Cooke. "A change is gonna come." I didn't touch the dial. I spoke to no one and everyone. Forgiveness ain't about forgetting. It's about choosing not to live where the pain was built. If your children fail to see your worth, hold on. Time's got a way of bringing truth home. I paused, letting the silence breathe. Maybe I wasn't useless. Maybe I was the foundation. Then the call came. Celeste again. "We've got our first class ready. They're asking for you." I straightened my back, brushed the dust from my jacket. "If I could build my son's future," I said, "I can help build someone else's too." And with that, I walked toward the light breaking through the porch slats. Quiet, steady.